So today I'm actually going to be going over the Kukuhroziat series weapons that they announced during the headline on PSO2. But if you guys are new to the channel, my name is Chrono. I cover primarily PSO2 content. Would much appreciate a subscribe as we work our way towards that 7K mark, hopefully fairly soon, and 10K by the end of the year. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. So I wanted to talk about what we likely will be seeing with these new weapon series. I was doing a bit of research for making this video, and my original thoughts on it kind of changed. Now, again, keep in mind, all of this is speculation. This is all based on information that's been provided from the headline, but there's no guarantee that it'll work out the way that we're interpreting it. To be honest, until we see hard facts of what the actual stats are, what potentials are, we don't know what these weapons truly will be, how strong they'll be on, our power scale, or, if it's something that we'll invest in or something we'll skip over. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding whether or not you want to save up materials, or if you want to go ahead and double down on some of the weapons we have access to right now, whether that be Relic or the Synquem weapons. So I'm going to play a quick passage from the headline to give you guys an idea of why I wanted to make this video. So before I play this passage, I want to mention to you guys a similar introduction, I guess, to the weapons that we have available to us right now, the Synquem weapons. Keep in mind, when these were first announced, they were announced as weapons that would be on par with Relic weapons. They would take a bit more time to build up, but they would be, on par. Now, in later, interviews with Hiro, they spoke about not vastly outscaling Relic weapons, that if you had a Relic weapon, your weapon wouldn't be vastly outpowered. Now, look what we currently have at the moment. To be perfectly honest, Relic weapons are technically at the moment outscaled. Synquem weapons beat them in just about every situation when we're looking at two weapons at their peak, and this is not even counting fixes involved with it. When I say their peak, I mean augmented with the best augments you can get on the weapon itself, on top of that having max level potential. Now, it's worth mentioning that to get max level potential on Synquem weapons does take much longer than it would on a Relic weapon. However, there's been plenty of time. Players are at level 4 at this point in time since Synquem has come out. So it's safe to say that yes, Synquem did fairly heavily outscale Relic. Not insanely heavily to the point where it's almost unfair, but it did outscale it. And they were an easier weapon to come by. They just took a little bit longer to get going. So the reason why I wanted to do a video like this was so you guys would be informed of possibilities. The possibility that these Kukuhroziat weapons might actually end up outscaling the weapons we have currently. Big, big, big emphasis on might. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, let you guys listen to it, and see why I wanted to make this video.
Additionally, dolls in both Elio and Retum level 31 and above will drop the dolls-themed Kukuhroziat Weapons series. In both combat and exploration sectors, various dolls will drop weapons unique to their enemy type, so you can collect different categories of drops depending on which region you explore. Although their basic stats are not on par with the Synquem or Relic series, these weapons boast powerful potential that will come in handy during the high difficulty quests coming in the second half of April. The Kukuhroziat series requires the same materials for unlocking potentials as standard 5-star weapons and thus will not require photon scales. Get your hands on the Kukuhroziat series and prepare to take on some high-level quests.
So there was a bit to unpack here. So we know the Kukuhroziat weapons will be dropping off of dolls above level 31. By the time this comes out, I believe we'll have the patch that we're going up to 45, meaning that we'll have enemies that outscale 31 pretty easily and pretty readily available to us almost all the time. So the idea that these weapons will drop pretty easily, or I guess fairly commonly enough, it's highly up there. I can't say fairly anymore, but it's highly up there. So things like fixes will be relatively plentiful. Now, they mention that the potential might help in future content. They don't specify how. Now, this could mean a few things. There's a couple of camps you can be in this situation. You can either be in the camp of people that believe that the Kukuhroziat weapons will have a special potential that'll primarily tie to a new piece of content that will make them stronger only specifically in that new piece of content, and then everywhere else they will be a weaker version or weaker choice, similar to the elemental weapons having their extra proc chance and causing extra elemental downs, having their niche against certain enemy types, but not always being the best weapon choice to go with. There is also another field of thinking where the idea that the weapons themselves will have lower base stats, but a very powerful potential in future content just means that they're going to be powerful in general with newer, harder content. Not necessarily meaning there's something that's going to tie to, but something that is just going to do fairly well. It's possible, and has happened in the past, where we thought we weren't going to get something that outscaled what we had at the moment, and it turns out it did. So there is a possibility, there's a frame of mind to believe that we could end up with a newer weapon that's even stronger than what we have. Now, for the record, I don't believe they're going to push stronger than the Cinquem weapons. The only reason I believe the Cinquem weapons even existed in the first place was to primarily go along with players that want that weapon you can build up over time, while not completely falling into the idea that they have to go back with Zig weapons. I feel like they're trying to move away from them, when in reality, all of us, including myself, really want that style of weapon back. Taking the weapon out of the market and making the upgrade something the player works on over time feels better, in my opinion, than having to deal specifically with something that's just on the market. However, I also understand from the dev perspective how that's going to be a little difficult to do without reworking the fixa process, because if you get this weapon and you build it up over time and it's not something that you have to get as a drop, how are you going to get a fixa on it? They'll have to really rethink the fixa process, so realistically speaking, it's going to be a different mindset. Now, that was a bit of a tangent, but that brings us all back to the weapons themselves. The possibility for these weapons to outscale what we currently have exists. Again, this is a possibility. It's not a guarantee, but we've had similar things told to us in the past, and look where we are at the moment. Relic weapons are still hard to get, however, they're not the strongest option anymore. Cinquem weapons are easier to get, they're just harder to upgrade over time, it just takes a bit longer. We now have newer weapons that are available to us. So, realistically speaking, what does that mean? What are we going to be getting with these new dolls weapons? Now, I'm currently in the mindset of two possibilities. One being that these weapons have a niche use. Maybe these new pieces of content have a death limit, and these new weapons have something like a cheat death with their potential that'll be useful. Or there's a possibility that we're in a situation where they could have some other potential that just works with the enemy types we'll be fighting. They'd announce a new enemy type that buffs other enemies. Maybe this potential is good at busting those types of enemies in new content, so it's possible that could be the case. Or there's also the possibility that these weapons do outscale what we currently have. Now, I don't think they're going to far outscale them. I think they're going to be an option you can go towards in case you're you're trying to get those photon scales. They're just going to be a little bit weaker. Now, there is a third option. I think this one is really, really far off, but these weapons might be a good option as like a secondary weapon if you ever really want to build a weapon to level ults with. Not a bad idea, but there is that possibility as well. Either way, the real reason I made this video was to get everyone's brain pumping, to get everyone thinking, and to possibly warn anyone, if they were thinking about upgrading their weapon right this very moment, that it might be worth waiting just a little bit to see where this new weapon ends up. I know myself will be looking very, very closely at this. My fellow colleague Thrift, who also does some awesome videos, very underrated in our community. I don't understand how, has been pumping out insane information for the entire community. Like, when I say insane info, I mean like things that I've been adapting to what I do in the game. Just pumping out crazy info. You should definitely go check them out. They stream over on Twitch, as well as making YouTube content fairly recently that's been amazing. You should definitely look into. But I'm sure they'll cover the content when it pops up. I'll be looking at it very closely, so keep an eye out. Anyway, guys, I was gonna say, if you like the video, toss a like, subscribe when you keep up with more, which is our usual outro. But more importantly, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What team are you on? Where do you think we're gonna end up? Is this gonna be another weapon that outscales what we have? Do you think it's gonna be something that's niche? Do you think it's just not gonna matter? We'll have to see. Either way, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.